Russia had also been accused of being behind the 2014 missile attack on Malaysian Airlines flight MH17, which killed 298 people, including 38 Australian residents and citizens. President Trump didn't raise the issue with Mr. Putin during their private meeting or in the press conference that followed. In the US overnight, Australia's Foreign Minister Julie Bishop and Defence Minister Marise Payne were in California for the annual two-day AUSMIN talks with their US counterparts, the Secretaries of State and Defence.
Good morning, everyone.
At their joint press conference, an Australian reporter asked the US Secretary of State a pointed question on behalf of a Perth couple whose 3 children and their grandfather died on MH17.
Secretary Pompeo, will the United States, our friend and ally, help Australia hold Russia to account, and how?
As America's top diplomat, Mike Pompeo also has the immense task of convincing North Korea to give up its nuclear arsenal. ABC North America correspondent Zoe Daniel was in California for the AUSMIN talks, and later she sat down with US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Zoe Daniel, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Ellen.
The Australian priority for these talks was to reaffirm the relationship with Washington. Now, given the tension in President Trump's relations with everyone from the Canadians to the Europeans to the British, how did it go?
It's really interesting to note just how warm the relationship seems to be, considering that the Trump administration of late has been making a habit of putting its best allies offside. For various reasons, Australia really does seem to be still shoulder to shoulder with the US on particularly defence and security. There was absolutely no sign of tension at all in the group meeting here. They spoke about the various issues that you'd expect: denuclearisation of North Korea, the behaviour of China in the South China Sea and the Pacific, the behaviour of Russia, the trade relationship between the two countries. And I'm being told that in part the warmth in the relationship goes to Donald Trump's penchant for making personal relationships. And he's said to get on very well with Malcolm Turnbull. Someone who works in trade in the White House said to me that Malcolm Turnbull's dealings with the president have been better than any other global leader, according to those who work in that department.
Julie Bishop's also been concerned that Washington's warming relations with Russia might mean that Moscow isn't held to account for the downing of MH17. Was she given any reassurance on that front?
Yes, she was. So Julie Bishop did come in concerned about that on the basis that reaching out to Vladimir Putin could somehow let Russia off the hook for previous behaviour. Mike Pompeo actually said that he believes that history will view the overtures towards the Russian president very kindly in the future. That's one of the questions that I asked him, Ellen, when I sat down with him at length this morning.
Mr Secretary, thank you very much for joining us.
So it's great to be with you.
Australia's Foreign Minister has raised concerns that the administration's engagement with Russia could give it a chance to escape responsibility for past behaviour. What assurances did you give her on that?
Yeah, there's no chance that's going to happen. This administration has been consistent. America has been incredibly supportive of the Joint Investigative Team. We understand what happened with MH17. We are committed to making sure those responsible are held accountable. I told Foreign Minister Bishop that, but more importantly, I'm happy to share with the Australian people, America has the full support. I know the tragedy that was for so many Australians and their families.
Are you privy to what was said between President Trump and Vladimir Putin and the agreements as they've been described that were made?
Yeah, I wasn't in the room, but I've had a number of conversations with President Trump. I've spoken with Foreign Minister Lavrov. I think I have a very good understanding of what took place between the two leaders. It was an incredibly constructive engagement for President Trump and President Putin, an important one for the world. These are two nuclear superpowers. They ought to be engaged in conversations, and they covered a wide range of topics. They disagreed on many things, but also set forward some constructive paths on important topics.
Such as?
They talked about the important challenges in Syria. We still have over 6 million displaced persons there. How we might find a way to work together in that space to take down the violence level for those families, the incredible strain on Jordan and Lebanon of those, and Turkey for that matter, for those displaced persons, not to mention the tragedy for those human lives. They spoke about Ukraine. They didn't find much place to agree there. The president was strong in making sure that the world understood that the Minsk path is the right path forward. I could go on.
President Trump's approach is unorthodox, to say the least.
Well, that's your word.
Well,
that's your word.
And it's been used by many. I mean, his approach is unusual, you have to admit that.
President Trump is determined to make sure that every day we do the right thing for America's citizens, and we believe deeply that through that, the world will be a far better place. It is the case that where America has been engaged in the world, citizens in every country have benefited from that participation, and President Trump's determined to make sure that continues to happen.
Back to MH17 for a moment. Dozens of Australians were killed on that plane, 3 children from one family and their grandpa. What do you say to that family specifically about this approach to reach out to Russia?
Yeah, it was a real tragedy. What the Russians did there is deeply immoral. There ought to be accountability, and the United States is prepared to support the joint investigating team such that that accountability takes place.
Tangentially,
we've been at the front of that. We've worked diligently on it. We care deeply about it. The previous administration did too. I give them full credit for that, and will continue to be so.
on Russia, the president's been highly critical of US intelligence agencies during the Russia investigation. Why should Five Eyes nations like Australia trust US intelligence if the president doesn't?
Yeah, let's make no mistake. President Trump values the work that the Central Intelligence Agency does and all of America's intelligence agencies.
But he's been so very critical of the FBI.
He relies on it. He depends on it. He values it. He loves the people that work for those intelligence agencies. And I can assure you, when I met with our Five Eye partners, they relied on American intelligence as well. And I expect they will continue to do so. They are great, important partners. And the Five Eyes relationships have saved countless lives in Australia.
On North Korea, how confident are you that Kim Jong-un is still willing to denuclearise, and is there progress still being made?
He made a commitment. Chairman Kim promised. He did so in writing. He did so to the president privately, as I understand it, but I also heard him do so in a larger gathering. It's the third time I've had the chance to meet Chairman Kim, and in each case, he has made clear his intention to denuclearize. Until such time, the world continues to demand that he gets rid of those weapons. They are a threat to the people of North Korea. President Trump's made very clear that there is a brighter future for the North Korean people. The simple task is to honor the commitment that Chairman Kim made and denuclearize. And we'll keep enforcing sanctions until that happens. We'll continue to negotiate. We will try to find the right path forward, but I'm confident that is the world's expectation, and I'm very hopeful we can deliver on Chairman Kim's commitment.
On China, what's the plan for US-Australian collaboration, both in relation to the South China Sea and also to meddling in the South Pacific? Did you specifically discuss any strategic moves on those fronts?
We did. We had long conversations about a free and open Indo-Pacific. Foreign Minister Bishop, Defense Minister Payne, Secretary Mattis, and myself all understand that is an incredibly important thing, not only for countries in the region, the Pacific Island countries, Southeast Asia, Australia itself, but for the United States as well. And we have developed, you'll see, we'll put together a document that we will share with the world that talks about the concrete actions we're going to take to ensure that the free and open Indo-Pacific materializes and continues to be free and open.
And you plan to build up troop numbers in Darwin?
So Secretary Mattis said just a bit ago that the agreed upon number, 2,500 United States Marines in Darwin, are prepared to go, and the timeline for their arrival in Australia will be when the Australian government says this is the time, this is the sequence, this is the right place, so we have the right missions for them. So yes, we will continue to do that. It's an important mission for the United States, and we know it's an important mission for not only Australia but the region as well.
When are we getting an ambassador? And is the president coming to Australia after APEC in November?
So with respect to the ambassador, soon. And
soon? What sort of time frame is that?
Soon. That's all I can say at this point. But I know it's important to the United States. I know it's important to Australia as well. I've put it as a real commitment, and we'll have ambassador, U.S. ambassador to Australia soon. The president tends to come. His schedule's not quite set yet, but I'm very hopeful that will work into his schedule. It's very important for all of us to do our best to be physically present It won't change. When we're not visiting the president, it doesn't change our commitment, but I know the president would like to be there as well.
Just to wrap up, the Foreign Minister Julie Bishop has said that the global order is being challenged on multiple fronts and that the US under President Trump is seen as less predictable and less committed to the international order that it pioneered. Is that true?
No. The truth is the United States remains committed to ensuring that the global order succeeds, that the world continues to flourish. America is the primary example of what democracy and freedom and the respect for every single individual, the human dignity of every individual. There's no country that we take a backseat to with respect to that. President Trump is committed to exporting that concept around the world.
And Australia's still a mate?
Always.
Sir, thank you very much.
Thank you, Zoe. It's great to be with you.
Thank you so much.